So I've seen a lot of stuff lately, so I feel like I got to do this one for the gram here. I just can't get over all this stuff, so I got to do this real quick. Do you hear the dog whistle or the alarm? Woke! 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 Liberal boogeyman alert! Woke! 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 It don't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. Tell me what the definition is. Come at me with something that actually means something. Woke! 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 Liberal boogeyman alarm. Hearing the dog whistle yet? How's that? So everybody trying to scream about this woke culture or cancel culture and giving all these names. You can't have cancel culture when it's been around for less than 6 months. It's not a culture. It's not a culture. It's not a cancel culture. It's not a cancel culture. It's everybody freaking out because they don't know what else to say. They're trying to find something to engage people and get them to do stuff. See, I got a dog whistle. I got a boogeyman alarm. It's not just that, believe me, it's both sides. But it's worse with Republicans. It's worse with the right from French and other stuff. The left and right stuff, if you don't know, is not an American thing. It comes from other places. So the conservative, what are they conserving? Seems like they just want to trash everything and conserve their power and their money. At other people's expense. It's not that they just want to be rich. They want to do it at other people's expense. And that's a generalization. Absolutely. There's not all Republicans. I absolutely agree with that. Just like anytime I see something that says Democrats, it's not all Democrats. It's just not. Trump lost the election fairly. Being woke, being understanding the mistakes of the past and correcting them is called progress. It's called correction, not woke, woke, woke. So there's that. I figured I better get that out there because I've seen so much of it and there's just all over. It's woke. It's buzzwords, man. It doesn't mean anything. Tell me what woke means. Give me a definition besides not asleep. Besides not asleep. You got more blah, 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 blah. Give me something real. Something besides, I got buzzwords so I can piss people off and get them on my page. As long as we're talking about it, if you're one of those people who gets put in Facebook jail, then goes right back after you get out and starts screaming about how much Facebook sucks on Facebook, you're going to keep getting put in Facebook jail. You know why? It engages you. You come back and interact. That's what they want. And also it was a response to them doing that was a response to Trump saying they'll be held accountable for what people post. So your new Messiah, the orange Messiah, the Cheeto used to be Cheeto in chief. That's why they started doing it. They were going to have to be held responsible for what you say. I didn't really think it was going to happen or they'd have made it a lot more targeting. I mean, for real, if they can't stop hate speech on the Starbucks page, but they most certainly can put just ordinary people in Facebook jail, it wasn't completely serious, right? It was a lazy solution and wasn't really thought up very well. And they'll probably keep doing it as long as it makes people engage. The other thing is most of the time, if you take a look, you'll see most of the time when people get in jail, you'll see that you not only weren't completely correct, but you used words like always or never, or there's nothing wrong when there could be. You used very definitive and absolute language when it was very much not definitive or absolute. The fact that you don't know it is part of the problem. So there's all that. If you're worried about it being on Instagram, it's not, because it's a picture. It's a little bit easier to sit there and say no, unless you put something like words to it. That being said, there's no woke boogeyman. If your idea of woke is some other generalization and stereotype that you've got from some other corporate media, Fox's corporate media, so is OAN, all that stuff, they're corporate media. They just want you to think that everyone else is on a different team. They're some of the worst, along with a lot of the television stations that are now owned by a single company throughout the Midwest that John Oliver made a wonderful little prank and showed just how terrible they are when it comes to actually disseminating information. There's this terrible idea that because you're paying money, it means you won't lie, which is, quite honestly, far from the truth. It is at least 50% wrong. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So you want to start telling me about woke? Tell me what you know. Not woke, 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 boogeyman alert, boogeyman alert. Like communist China, communist Russia. I hate to tell you this, communist Cuba. They're not communism. They're a government that uses authoritarianism to, how should I say this, masquerade as communism, as the idea that they're doing it for the people and that there's a small group or a proletariat or some sort of authoritarian group that can lead. That's not communism. It's not Marxism. That is a traditional government trying to be more for the people. I'll do a whole bit on the fact that true communism and true capitalism are two sides of the same spectrum. It's really, really simple and easy to point out. The problem is most people won't do it because they want to give you something to fight about. It's that simple. I mean, I can put a whole lot of things out here, right? If you think police shouldn't just defend those who pay for them, like actually directly pay them or pay their salaries, that if you think the police force should be privatized, you're not a communist. But if you think that the police should protect and serve every citizen because we all pay taxes and we all do that, then you are talking about a communist idea. Same with the fire department. Same with us. You know what? So should public health. There's a spectrum to it. You want to talk about capitalism? That's where humans don't matter and only money does. Which is funny because money doesn't grow on trees and it only happens through people. So the idea that there's such a thing as a free market for real with a completely good consumer base that is knowledgeable about everything so they can always make the perfect decision. They can always make the decision based upon what's best for them as if they know every single option and opportunity available to them. That's a myth. That's the idea that when you go out to shop, you see every option available to you. Instead of you stop at about 4 or 5 and then pick from those because Lord knows you don't have the time and that's way too many. You have to start comparing without a spreadsheet. So the whole idea of a fully informed consumer, which forms the basis for the idea of a free market capitalist society and that the market will always correct itself, is a myth. You have a problem with that? Argue my points. It's that simple. So it's a spectrum. There's a spectrum between purely after money with no help whatsoever and purely there with, because it rewards people who have already won. It rewards families. If you're going to talk about real capitalism and the idea that the guy who, the best fisherman is the guy who sells the most fish, then you can't have inheritance. That's feudalism. That's, I got it, so I'm handing it to my kids, and now you can't ever have it because I'm passing it on. That doesn't mean your kid's the best fisherman. You may have been the best fisherman, but now your children are taking advantage where they don't, and they're utilizing it to pretend to be. So whether it be the best maker, the best that, the inheritance part needs to be limited. We're talking about feudalism. Back when there was indentured servitude because you had to be indentured to the lord of the land. That sort of thing. Because they owned it. So therefore, you owed them for being born. No thanks. Don't think so. I'm pretty sure that's kind of what this country left for. I mean, after all, we don't want to admit it, but we were pretty much a prison continent, just like Australia. They didn't want to deal with us, or people that they couldn't handle no more were shipped off to America, whether we like to admit it or not. We're kind of the successful refuse story. There's nothing wrong with that. It shows how wrong what our ancestors were leaving, and the fact that it has since been adapted shows it as well. So this is turning into a 10-minute video that is going to end up going on YouTube, but this is the whole thing. Everything I see, this woke culture, cancel, all these buzzwords that try and give people something to attach to. This is what it is. I saw woke on Fox and tucked under Carlson and wannabe Hannity told me what it means, and that must be you're just another libtard, or you don't know, because they are far from authorities. There's a reason they don't put people of competent capability on their show, because they'll get destroyed real fast, and that would really not do good for their ratings. They put people on there that they know they can beat, which is usually a low denominator. There's a low common denominator there, and I hate to insult people who've been on their show, but they cherry pick. I could go on there with one hand tied behind my back. In fact, I'd call them out. Take me on. Some dude from nowhere. Ducked under. But yeah, so if that's the kind of thing where you get it, if that's where you get your information, you're sorely lacking. Or if your idea is that you're going to sit there and use a bunch of big words to try and tell me and then drop to cancel culture or woke corporations. They were asleep before, but this woke shit's all... No, it's not. Is it pandering? I don't know. You know what? Here's the thing. When we start to get together as a group of people and we say, you know what? We need more help. We are willing to do this. There's a lot of people say, oh, it's just to take money out. No, it's not. It's not to take money out. You know what we need to do? Revamp what we got. We need to actually say, fund the IRS so we can find the people that are doing it, not the people who are cheating on $500, the people who are cheating 500 million or more. You don't like it? Huh. The estate tax needs to be higher. Why do you need to leave so much to your kids? What did they do? Is it just because they are, because you got it, so you can do whatever you want? Even in death, you'll hand it to them? And therefore, no one can touch it. You want it, and it's yours. You're hoarding. Hoarded. Ah. Why? How does that fit into the capitalist view you talk about? True capitalism, right? Where the free market determines who's the best and who gets the money, not birth. How does it fit in? So yeah, I believe, does that mean I hate people who were born and inherited money? No. It's not their fault. It's rules. If I was given money, would I give it away? I have a tremendous amount of respect for people who were born into wealth and don't flaunt it or use it or even give it away. That's an amazing amount of character. It's just one of those things. Taxes are real. Why shouldn't we pay taxes? Why shouldn't we have a tiered capital gains tax? Seriously, why not? We should have a slightly higher 25%. We should have it closer to 28 for corporate tax rates. 25 is ridiculous. 21 is ridiculous. It's all ridiculous. That's where the stock market boom came from, by the way. It was like 10% drop in taxes. So all of a sudden, even if they were making money, they had more money to deal with. It wasn't that it went back to anyone. It just wasn't being put into the coffers that allow the entire population to benefit. So, no, this was going to be just a quick woke, but I'm getting way too deep and I'm going down the rabbit hole now. So let's go. Want a hat? Yeah, it's not there. So let's see what that goes. The other thing is no, we're not communists. Saying that we want to put into a pool so that we all can benefit is not communism. It's called insurance. As long as we're talking about that, let's go to healthcare. Because as you know, having a bigger pool, having a bigger company and a bigger pool of people in your healthcare plan is how you offset costs. You subsidize the people that aren't sick, subsidize the people that are. And the more people you have, the greater the pool is. So the best way to bring down healthcare costs is to make the pool as large as possible, which would be the entire country's population. Now, there's administrative costs that go on that. I am oversimplifying, to be sure. But the reality is the administrative costs can't possibly outweigh the benefit of the entire country. If we can subsidize healthcare through profit and have multi-billion-dollar companies sucking all that in, then we can have a universal healthcare or a country healthcare, at least preventative and basic, that is administrated by those same companies, and then they can offer products that tack on. Much like, I hate to use a company, but Aflac or some of those where they have that tiered insurance where you can add on benefits. Why not? That's the best way to do it. If the administration is being done by the same companies, why would it increase? You have a bigger pool, you have a bigger pool of constituents, you have a bigger pool of customers, you have a bigger pool of people with which to spread the costs over. And it would be the same private companies, much like Medicare or Medicaid, it would be the same private companies administrating these plans. How would that increase administrative costs? unless it's artificial or intentionally done. There's going to be a little bit because it's going to be government interacting with private business. So there's always stuff because private business doesn't like to have to actually serve everybody. They only want to serve a very specific one because that's more efficient. It's more efficient to basically serve one market or to striate your markets and then attack each one individually, as opposed to treat the entire population as a market. It's less efficient. But until you get to healthcare or until you get to something like insurance, like car insurance and stuff like that. Insurance is essentially saying we're going to pool everybody together and we're going to communally use those funds to pay for what the people who need it and are in our group need. Insurance for profit means we're going to try and only give you as little as we possibly can while we take the rest as profit and pay. And you want to pay people to do it, but then pay extra as profit to try and, I don't know what, gain more market or something. If you already have the entire population, you don't need to gain more market. Right? If you have a captive market and it is the entire population, that is like a business wet dream. So yeah, let's just go with that. I'm all for people attacking my points, and I have no problem with discussion on my points. If you want to talk about like, well, if I have to pay more, then I'm going to lose, or if I pay lower, then I can do costs. Here's the reality. If you start paying people less, you're going to take the difference as a business owner. So you're not actually going to save the money unless you have to because competition is too stiff. If you're one of those people who's noticing that everyone's trying to pay someone too little and you're like, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of cut in my pay and some other things, and I'm going to hire people that are good. I'll pay them more money and I'll give them incentives to stay so I don't have to spend more money on training or mistakes. And you'll find that you not only get better people, you'll get better quality and you'll be able to outcompete those that don't while they're struggling to find people to work for less money. You can't find really intelligent, capable people for that low of money, unless you've artificially manipulated the job market to keep them down, because you need more people to do jobs that you're unwilling to or unable. It's that simple. It really is. That's the basis behind free market. And so if you're a capitalist screaming about it, why? Why is paying your people worse? Why is paying your employees worse? Nobody does it alone. Unless you're a sole proprietorship and you're the only person working your business, nobody does alone. Honestly, even then, I can tell you right now, having been the son of a sole proprietor and a contractor for, well, still, he's just not a contractor anymore. I'm still his son. No one does it alone. You didn't build your business alone. You had help. You had people. You had lots of people you leaned on when you needed them. Sometimes it may have been in a lean time. You may have had to take loans. You may have had to leverage personal relationships. Nobody does it alone. Neither did you. Neither did anyone. We do it together. We all do. Pass, fail, anything. So yeah, there's that. Woke boogeyman, all of your liberal stuff, liberal, conservative, these stereotypes that make it easy for you to sit there and say that you own or that you've out-argued them because you beat one person, so then you beat everyone. That's crap. You want to do that? Come for me. Come right to my page. I'll be happy to have those discussions. I understand that there's a lot of people who are too scared. You probably should be. So, I get it. I do. I understand if you're too scared to try and justify your overly simplified words so that you can try and say what the definition is, even though it's not. Your slang terminology that is undefined does not impress me. Define it and then use it. Don't just scream it, "Woke! Communism!" What was communism? I hear people, or like Kremlin crews out there saying things like, I was tortured by communists and so I hate communists. Well, thank you for the stereotype. What's a communist, Ted? What is it? What's communist? Someone who doesn't believe in paying people what they're worth? Well, that's not true. China pays multiple different things. Most of their basic human needs are provided by the government, and the government controls it. If you're going to talk about communism as a method of control, then we have a discussion about authoritarianism and the different methods with which it hides because it can hide in capitalism too. Authoritarianism can hide under anything. Authoritarianism is about control while you tell people you're doing something else. A lot of times it's not even telling them. You just tell them this is the way it's going to be. If you got any problems, you'll get killed. It's just a matter of forceful domination. You know, that dark side stuff. So, yeah, let's go for it. I'm sick of hearing this. You want to come to my page and talk? Be my guest. You want to come and start spewing that stuff? Be my guest. Come on my page. I don't go out to your page to try and engage you. Come to mine. Got anything to say? You got something to do? Come to my page. No? Why? What are you afraid of? Losing? So, with that being said, I've seen a whole lot of stuff. I'm going to avoid the whole religion discussion right now because that's another 20-minute video. So yeah, this one went off the rails just a little bit. My 8-minute video turned into a 22-minute video. But really, here's the thing. This is a load of crap. Woke! 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 Liberal boogeyman! Liberal boogeyman! Liberal boogeyman! Woke! Do you hear it yet? Do you see it? Do you see all the boogeymen trying to get people engaged, trying to rile people up so they know what upsets people? So the most triggerable and overly sensitive and incredibly, I don't want to say vivacious. That's the wrong connotation. But the people who are most easily goaded into quick and unthought reactions are now what the people who are supposedly representative of entire groups. That's wrong. In fact, right now, the Republican Party is engaging that. They're trying really hard to change what's just a political view as opposed to what is an institutionalized, or that racism and all that stuff is just a political view. No, it's not. It's not just a political view. Nice try. Considering that even in California, unless you're a registered Republican or anything like that, like you can't vote in a Republican primary. So I can't even determine if I want to be a Republican by who's on the ballot unless I'm already one. Yeah, no thanks. I'm still a registered NPP, no party preference. Because, yeah, Republicans, not this one. Mitch McConnell, Trump, Cruz, Marco Rubio, this. We won't listen. We don't believe anything. It's all just a political hack. And every time there's something they don't like, it's the Democrats. It's some group of people and everybody's thrown in and it's a ridiculous stereotype. No thanks. The far left screaming about how there's 1,000 different genders when they really mean gender roles. No thanks. I'm going to do a whole video on that too, because I do believe that there are 2 biological genders, but there are multiple ways of gender expression, especially genetic expression. If you're going to tell me there's 2 genders outside of biological expression of those genes, I'm going to ask you what XXY syndrome is, or XYY. And if you give me that caveat, then we're done. I got the whole argument down. So let's go. I'm fine with that. Especially if you bring up a book written at the 20th century, in the mid-century, when we haven't even released the slaves. It's probably based on Freudian psychology, something like that. Talking about how if their mental state doesn't match their biological expression, that it must be a mental illness. I'm salivating at that argument. Let's go. This isn't that hard. And I have seen a couple of things about like people repeating stories because they must be true if they've been repeated. So here's what I'm only going to leave one last little laugh here on that, and then I'm going to end the video because I'm running off the rails into 25 minutes of rambling about the ridiculous state of things. So here it is. When it comes to stories about there used to be a guy because you said so or whatever, you understand that story? I don't think so. Nice try. Anyway, that's me. Whether this is a dose of Drew or just Andrew, I'm going to tell you right now, that's my rambling off on a bunch of continuing subjects in our culture right now. But the idea that there's a cancel culture or anything like that that's been around, all of a sudden there's a cancel culture because there's a couple of companies that started changing their policies in response to a government mandate or a government threat. That's not a culture. That's not a culture. A nice try to really just stereotype everyone in a nice bucket so it's easy for everyone to understand, or at least a handful of people to understand. Oh, I get it. They fit in that container, so it must be everybody. This is fun. This is fun and easy to me. I do this stuff in my sleep. It's not that hard for me. So if you're out there making knives, you're out there running your mouth on TV, you're one of these people who keeps coming on and screaming about cancel culture, I didn't like it, just because I had a viewpoint. What was your viewpoint? How did you describe it? Did you just use words and so it must be okay because you didn't really mean what those words meant? Then why'd you use them? So because you don't have command of the language you speak? Or you just speak without thinking and then don't want to have to be accountable for what you say? Like, what is it? Again, I've ran off the rails. So there we go. I'll do it one more time for the Woody Woodpecker laugh. But yeah, I'm over this, you guys. This is too fun. I'll take pretty much anyone on these. So come and get it. Bye-bye.